Hello, and welcome back to another recap. Today we are going to recap one of the action movies called The Equalizer. Spoilers ahead. The Equalizer follows the life of Robert McCall, a resident of Boston. Each day, Robert engages in his routine job at the Mart hardware store, leading an ordinary existence. During work, he befriends his colleague, Ralphie, an overweight individual aspiring to pass the security officer selection exam through a diet program. Robert offers advice to Ralphie, recommending the avoidance of high-carb foods in favor of fiber-rich options. In the evenings, he frequents a restaurant where he is a subscriber, consistently bringing along his own tea bags and cutlery. This portrayal sets the stage for the intricate and intriguing life of Robert McCall in The Equalizer. Robert's habit of always tidying up is evident when the man arranges his napkins and cutlery on the table, which he always makes sure the table is clean and the cutlery is in its proper place. The atmosphere in the diner was not so crowded that night. There were only a few customers, including a beautiful girl named Elena, who greeted Robert and asked about the story told in the book Robert was reading. Not long after, Elena said goodbye to Robert and left the place, then went and called a taxi. The next day, Robert went back to his usual activities, went to work at Home Mart, chatted with Ralphie and the other co-workers, then came home to clean up. He also had dinner, and that evening Robert returned to visit his regular diner with a book and read it. Shortly after Robert arrived there, Elena was seen entering the diner in skimpy clothes and heavy makeup. Elena was just about to order a drink when suddenly her cell phone rang a call from her boss. Elena turns out to be a teenage prostitute who's working under the name Terry for the Russian mob Slavy. That night, Elena was required to serve a customer who had picked up Elena in front of the diner over the phone. Elena tries to get away from her job and persuades Slavy not to have to serve the customer. As it turns out, the man often abuses Elena, but Slavy paid no heed to this and ordered Elena to immediately do her job. Slavy then reminds Elena that the girl owes him and threatens to kill her. Hearing the threat, Elena had no other choice but to obey Slavy's orders. Elena then left the diner and approached the man who had picked her up outside the diner, accompanied by Robert's inquiring glance, which was directed at the girl. The following day, Robert supports Ralphie in his physical exercises aimed at losing weight for the security officer selection exam. Despite Ralphie facing difficulties and being close to giving up due to the strenuous training, Robert persistently encourages him with genuine dedication, aiming to assist Ralphie in achieving his dream of becoming a security guard. In summary, Robert returned to his routine, which involved going to his usual restaurant and spending time reading books. On that particular night, Elena was already there when he arrived. She approached Robert at her favorite table, asking for permission to join him. Robert agreed, and during their conversation, he noticed bruises on Elena's face. After chatting for a while, Robert learned that Elena is compelled to work for Slavy due to a debt, despite her true dream of becoming a famous singer. After Elena gave Robert a CD with one of her songs, he happily accepted the gift and promised to listen to it. Following a casual chat at the diner, Robert decided to walk Elena home. During their conversation, a car driven by Slavy stopped in front of them. Slavy, angered by Elena's perceived failure with a customer, physically assaulted her, threatening Robert not to interfere. Slavy handed Robert a business card, suggesting he contact him for certain services before taking Elena away. Subsequently, Robert no longer saw Elena at his regular diner. One night, an employee informed Robert that Elena had been assaulted and was currently undergoing treatment at the hospital. Upon hearing about Elena's plight, Robert rushed to the hospital to find her battered and bruised. Elena's co-worker, Mandy, explained that Slavy had brutally beaten Elena for defying his orders. Witnessing Elena's dire condition and knowing the harsh treatment she endured from customers and her pimp, Robert felt a deep sense of compassion and resolved to help her escape from her troubles. The scene shifts to Slavy entering his upscale restaurant and heading to his office, where his men awaited him to collect money owed to him. Shortly after, Robert entered Slavy's office, offering money to free Alina from her predicament. However, Slavy rejected the offer, stating that he could make more money if Alina continued working for him. Unmoved by Slavy's refusal, Robert retrieved the money and headed towards the door. Instead of leaving immediately, Robert locked the door, turning to face Slavy and his henchmen. After a brief observation, he estimated it would take only 16 seconds to eliminate everyone in the room. Robert swiftly overpowered Slavy and his henchmen, leaving them defeated. Despite Slavy's pleas for mercy, Robert, unmoved by the earlier rejection of his offer, took their lives. Returning home, he resumed his regular activities. In the following days, news reports covered Slavy's murder and his henchmen, with the police attributing it to a gang feud. The scene then shifts to Teddy Renson, a man just arrived in the United States, rushing to investigate Slavy's murder on behalf of Vladimir Pushkin, Slavy's boss. As Teddy investigates Slavy's murder, his background as a former member of the Russian secret police with special forces training allows him to deduce that the killer was skilled and trained. Meanwhile, Robert is taken aback by the news of Ralphie's resignation. Visiting Ralphie at his home, Robert discovers that Ralphie left his job at Mart to help his mother, whose shop was intentionally set on fire by corrupt police officers demanding security payments. Refusing to comply, Ralphie's mother faced retaliation, prompting Ralphie to quit and focus on assisting her. In the evening, Robert decides to aid Ralphie by covertly trailing corrupt cops extorting security payments from local business owners. Robert records their actions and confronts them, threatening to expose their deeds unless they stop. The corrupt officers resist, but Robert prevails. After a beating, they return what they took, and Ralphie's mother receives venture capital to revive her shop. Ralphie returns to work at Mart, resumes his rigorous training, and achieves his goal of becoming a security officer. Meanwhile, Teddy resorts to violence in interrogating gangsters associated with Slavy, but gains no leads on the mastermind behind the murder. He turns to the prostitutes, Slavy's subordinates, discovering Alina's recent troubles. Teddy persuades Mandy to divulge information about Alina's rebellion to Slavy, but he kills her after obtaining the details. With the information from Mandy, Teddy checks CCTV footage, spotting Robert at the hospital and Slavy's murder site, albeit dimly visible. One day, Robert faces a situation where he must act swiftly to thwart a robbery at the Home Mart cashier, who happens to be his co-worker. Given the presence of many visitors, including children, Robert chooses to comply with the robber's demands, handing over valuables, including the cashier's gold ring. He allows the robber to escape but memorizes the license plate of the getaway car. Long story short, the next day, the female cashier was very surprised to find out that her ring, which was robbed yesterday, was suddenly in the cash register, and Robert was seen wiping the big hammer he used last night to knock out the robber and take back the ring.
Mr. McCall.
Teddy comes to Robert's house and claims to be a police officer investigating the Slavy murder case. Teddy then asks about the whereabouts of Robert, who was in a fancy restaurant on the night of Slavy's murder. Robert, trained to deal with such situations, calmly answers all the questions asked by Teddy to avoid arousing suspicion. After questioning Robert, Teddy says goodbye and leaves immediately. However, both Teddy and Robert are aware that they have lied. Robert can already guess that Teddy is not a policeman, and Teddy concludes that Robert is the mastermind behind Slavy's murder. Knowing that the Russian Mafia is now after him, Robert immediately arranges a plan to leave his apartment. In short, Teddy orders one of his men to attack Robert at the diner, where Robert can easily knock out Teddy's men. Robert then exits the diner and finds Teddy in his car, where Robert takes a picture of the man with his cell phone camera. Teddy and his men then chase Robert to his apartment, but they do not find the man there. While searching the apartment, intending to find a clue as to who Robert really is, Teddy finds nothing but drugs and torn sports tickets. On the other hand, Robert turns out to be somewhere else, watching the movements of Teddy and his henchmen through a hidden camera in his apartment. Knowing that he is dealing with one of the largest Russian criminal organizations in the world, Robert decides to visit his old friend and colleague at the Defense Intelligence Agency, Susan Palmer, who uses her resources to give Robert information about Vladimir Pushkin and his operations. Susan also informs Robert that Teddy Renson's real name is Nikolai Asenko. After providing all the information that Robert wanted, Susan tells her husband that Robert didn't ask for help. He asked for permission to destroy Pushkin's operations in the United States. Robert first goes to Pushkin's cash vault, where he can easily incapacitate all of Pushkin's men, lock them in the refrigerator, and then call the police, leaving evidence in the form of a memory stick loaded with information about Pushkin's illegal activities. In the evening, Teddy is seen having dinner at a fancy restaurant. In front of him appears a man who turns out to be a trained assassin hired by Teddy to kill Robert. However, shortly after the man left Teddy's table, Robert entered the restaurant and approached Teddy. Robert then sat there, handing Teddy the hitman's cracked and bloody glasses. Robert reveals that he already knows about Teddy's past and warns Teddy to stop pursuing him, pledging to bring down Pushkin's criminal enterprise. Later, Robert destroys oil tankers belonging to Pushkin and ultimately dismantles Pushkin's entire business in the United States. After that, Teddy immediately sets up a plan to immobilize Robert. Teddy and his henchmen go to the Home Mart store and take several of Robert's coworkers as hostages. Teddy then calls Robert and threatens to kill Robert's coworkers if he doesn't come to the Home Mart store soon. Apparently, Robert had expected this, managing to sneak into the control room and tuning into the loudspeaker to distract Teddy and his henchmen. After knocking down some of Teddy's men, Robert frees Ralphie and asks him to help their coworkers escape through the back door. After ensuring Ralphie and all his coworkers are in a safe place, Robert turns off the main lighting in the Home Mart store, leaving only the dim spotlights. Robert immediately kills Teddy's men one by one, using the tools there, and eventually confronts Teddy, killing him with a nail gun. 3 days later, Robert travels to Moscow, eliminating Pushkin's guards and tricking Pushkin into electrocuting himself. With Pushkin's death, all illegal operations are terminated. Upon returning to the U.S., Robert encounters Alina, now recovered, and Alina, who thanks him for a second chance. Inspired by their transformation, Robert resolves to use his skills to help others and becomes known as the Equalizer. The movie concludes with Robert posting an online advertisement, emphasizing the importance of personal choice and humanity in shaping one's future. Which part of the Equalizer would you handle differently if you were in Robert McCall's position, and why? Make sure to comment down below and subscribe for more future recaps.